Hello, I'm Tim Wilson, and this is our digital minute on ethics and issues in the digital world. I was reading Liz Holman, the grad hacker, and she was discussing the wholesale acceptance of educational apps. Specifically, in her instance, was Google apps for educational purposes, such as Reminder 101. It's a communication device for students for reminders, Doodle, Poplet, a brainstorming collaborative for students, and G-Class folders. And there were certain issues that she brought up. That, one, accessibility. Do all students have equal accessibility to these apps if the instructor requires it? That is one issue. For legal and ethical issues, the instructor has to look at those ramifications because of FERPA, the Student Privacy Act. Who owns the work? If a student submits work to one of these apps, the question has to be asked, who owns these apps? According to Google, in some of their agreement, the 65-page agreement for using these apps, ultimately the student owns it. Again, the accessibility to all students, if they're required to use it, do they have accessibility? And are there other options, sans technology, that the student can use? Let's say paper. Can the student submit paper? There's other technologies that are used, such as Dropbox, iCloud, Blackboard. Are these privately held? What Liz Holman was discussing was, is it set up in such a way that only the instructor and the teacher and the student can access their material and their material only? I'm sure there's instances where I guess things can be hacked, where their privacy has been jeopardized. That has to be considered. And then she ended it by what could be done. First, you have to inform yourself. What do these apps? I guess you'd have to read the agreement on the apps, and you have to communicate with students. She said communicate with students. I'm going to take it a little further. You need to communicate with the parent. The student may not have the cognitive skills to understand, yeah, whatever, I want to post it. I want to post it all over the world, but it really needs to be the parent. So I'm going to make a correction there instead of the student making that decision. And then offer options. Again, can you turn the paper in to Dropbox, and as well can you turn it in by hand? So using all apps wholesale is something that there's a warning against. And the more she talked, it just seems like it was more trouble than it was worth, especially with the legalities behind it. I had heard this lady on a radio, this next issue, on a radio about a month ago. Her name is Dr. Sylvia Hart, and she had written a book, Digital Invasion. So I read a portion of it, and here's just a few things to keep this video succinct about a term. I don't know if she coined it or it was a term because of a study, digital dementia. Digital dementia, first let's define that. It's a deterioration of brain function as a result of overuse of technology, of smartphones, tablets, computers, and stuff like that. And I'm sure those who are in the K-12 arena have seen attention span problems or impatience of immediacy, where we can find anything at any time with a bit of immediacy. And here's something that I had thought of, that I had heard years before, was the shopping cart, or like we say here in East Tennessee, the buggy. There's a phenomena that if you go up to the shopping cart at Ingles and that first one is stuck, the person invariably goes to the next row and does not have the patience or the time to use their cognitive skills, the problem solving, the left side of the brain, for how to get that buggy unhooked. And I think that can be, and according to her as well, can be attributed somewhat to the immediacy of the digital age. And all the, now I don't want to make demonize it, but overuse. I think any reasonable person would have to see this overuse is going to have adverse effects on the user, such as memory problems, shortened attention span, and emotional flattening. A UCLA study, she reports, 14% of people 18 to 39 complain of memory problems, and the common thread was that overuse of digital devices, the smartphones. And we all lament that we love the technology, but at the same time we lament of their adults or students, their head is right there in a digital device, and they can't speak eye to eye. And I have to train my adult students when they go on an interview. There's an eye contact issue. Quit looking down as though there's a smartphone on you. Maybe that's why I refuse to get a smartphone. Don't need it. Meh. Anyway, and then there was issues, there's an improvement plan, according to a German study, that spend time in nature. Of course, leave the digital device in the house and just go outside. Go outside, go for a hike, go mountain biking, go for a walk. And then use creative outlets, music or art, sans the technology. Go to a museum, go to a concert, go to a play, go to a musical, go to an opera, but leave the digital device. Give your creative side of your brain, and as well as your thought and problem solving side, a break, and let it build that muscle back up. Work puzzles, whether it's Sudoku or the New York Times crossword puzzle or any other puzzles you see in the daily paper. Work those with a pencil. And then visual games. These things can help improve. And then I'd like to add, put the device down and limit yourself. Now, in our home, we have no video games because it is my opinion, these video games will make you dumb. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. And the digital devices, there's very limited, maybe an hour a day. Not to be cruel, but and we use the encyclopedia. Do not get hooked on, I've got to find it, Google tell me, and that type of thing. I really think it's great, but at the same time, there's an evil side to it, and it comes to a point where you're going to have to be, you're going to have to take care of yourself and know when to say when. It's kind of like going to a buffet. Is that first plate enough, or do you feel like you have to go to the second plate? This wasn't an article, but it was an issue that happened just this week. I'm serving as an intern at Bryan College, and my mentor, the vice president of academic affairs, his advice to me was read, especially in the field of higher ed, which is the field in which I'm in now. Read articles, whether it's something directly related to you anyway. And he offered some websites that have daily articles that might email to me. He said just read and read. Well, there's one particular one that I wanted to use, was the Chronicle of Higher Ed. But they want $80 a year to have access to it, and I wasn't willing to pay the $80. And then a colleague said, well, this person I know has that. We could ask for their username and password and we could have access to it. That brought up an ethical question. Would that be right to use someone else? Would it be the same as if I bought a magazine and then I handed it to you? I bought the subscription and I handed it to you, and for you to read it. Is there any difference in me accessing their username and password for the Chronicle of Higher Ed to access those without paying the $80? Is that a type of piracy of copying a disk, copying a program? And I had to conclude, I'm going to err on the side of caution, is that I will not do that. But if I'm with that person, I will, hey, log on to here. There's an particular article. I don't have any. I guess I can justify any of my sins by any reason. But the file sharing, file sharing, I think that's a digital ethics consideration that each person has to make. So with those three items, this has been the Digital Minute, brought to you by ProGenitoravox, the pill that will help you whatever ails you.